This morning, we are in the presence of the Senator of Nandi County. Kiprotich Arap Cheragei is here with us again this morning, and it's definitely lovely to have you here. Senator, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm well.
You're well?
Although the temperatures in Nairobi are dropping.
Yeah.
I'm told it's going back to 6 degrees.
Just maybe crisp in the
weeks or months.
It said it's going to be the coldest year in a while this year.
Yes.
So brace up for that.
But where I come from is more colder. Even a place called Nyaru in Elgeyo Marakwet. It's always cold throughout the year.
Okay.
So this is just ice cake.
This is nothing. This is nothing.
I ain't seen anything yet.
And that means, Cheragei, you've lived in Nairobi long for you to say the temperatures are going down.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, we'll take you to a place where the temperatures are not so cool, and Mark will tell you where that is, and then he'll also tell you where today's proverb is, what the proverb is.
Okay.
And then you can interpret that for us, yes?
Okay. Perfect.
So today's Proverbs, Bona Senator, comes from a place called Ghana, aka the Gold Coast, a place where our first president and the president of Ghana were good friends even before he became president. They were good friends with Haile Selassie. There's, in fact, the hotel where they stayed in, there's a big mural of them and them having a discussion with Kwame Nkrumah, because Ghana got it first and Kwame was focused on giving independence. So anyway, that's a bit of history. Do not know why I said that much history, but the proverb is quite dear to you, sir. The ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. The ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. Yeah.
I think that is why we say we the people. Everything stands with the people.
Yeah.
Even when you read, is it Thomas Aquinas, that the people surrendered their liberty and powers to be exercised on their behalf representatives. So it is the people who have inherent power over anything and everything. So if they allow the nation to be ruined, is because they are becoming complacent, and that is when the nation will go to the ruin. Yeah.
Okay.
So they must stand up and speak up.
So
there is a reggae song that says "Stand up, speak up." I don't know, was it Peter Tosh or somebody like that?
Stand up. Yeah. Stand up. You're right.
Correct.
Meskia, this is from the Honorable Senator himself, saying that you should vote wisely.
Correct.
Because this thing goes wrong at home.
Yes.
When you tell your child, when you tell your mom to vote the wrong way.
Correct.
Yes, I'm tempted to ask whether they voted the right way with you, but
of course, absolutely, I would not be serving my second term if that
was not the case.
If I was not the case.
Honestly, I love me a leader who can confidently say that they've done right by the people.
Yes,
that's a powerful statement to say.
Yes.
So even as we look at some the happenings of yesterday and coming into this new morning, Senator, that then forms the bedrock of the conversation that we'll have this morning.
Yes.
So yesterday was another day of another prayer breakfast, and it took a different kind of toll. And this was after the fact, whereby we heard very powerful prayers from, members of parliament like yourself. And then there was, a message, one like none other that has been heard at a prayer breakfast. And then thereafter, there was an apology, or an attempt at an apology by the president himself, in terms of just, I guess, trying to dissolve a lot of the tension that has marked the country for easily the last 1 year. Taking your reflections from what happened there and what could essentially happen coming into the near future, what's your take? The prayer breakfast is usually an event that wants to realign people, realign the nation, and that leaders come together to pray, ask, and get some kind of direction. Did it work?
With the indulgence, allow me first to pass my deepest condolences over the senseless killing of one of my priests, Father Alois Cheruiyot Bet, who was unfortunately fell by the bullets of criminals in Kerio Valley, and a number of people we have lost for the last 3 days. The sad reality is no one has been arrested up to today. when leaders met in Chesongoch over Sunday, they had promised that by yesterday, which is Wednesday, they would have surrendered or criminals would have been arrested. I think it is only fair to the family, and you saw the parents spoke yesterday that these criminals must be arrested, because now Kerio Valley is becoming a playground of criminals. And I remember when the CS visited the family to condole with them, he told the nation that Ministry of Interior knows where everybody is sleeping. So the question my people are asking, where are the bandits sleeping? Because if they know, they would have arrested and prosecuted them. And condolences to the entire Eldoret Diocese led by Bishop Dominic Kimengich. We shall not rest until they kill us. Any life lost in Kenya is too many, especially to the bullets and Kerio Valley. And we are thinking, that in going into the future, we might need to have operation like SDLF that we did in Mount Elgon, and even the one in Boni Forest in Lamu, so that we can restore peace in the Rift Valley. So it is very sad, but we hope we will rest him on Tuesday next week, and we hope justice will be done, and no Kenyan should lose their life, because he was only killed. He was carrying a staff and what do you call the things that they use in Jumuiya, the Misa, and he was not armed. So that is what I wanted to pass my comment. Secondly,
can I just ask a teeny little question?
Yes.
Can you assure Kenyans that the people who've been felled by gangsters and the people who've been felled by a police person, the person who's been felled by a forest person, you will defend them with such fervor?
Yes, I want to assure, even you have heard, it is on record of the Senate that I have been even questioning the 6 people that were killed allegedly by the police in Angata, Baragoi over land issues, that they must be arrested, because it looks like when we buried them, they were forgotten, and there was a statement that we are following with the Committee of National Security and Foreign Relations. Even every Kenyan, including the young people that were killed in the last GNC protest, if it involves the police, I think the Independent Policing Oversight Authority must be held accountable. And I hope when the IG and IPO appear before the Senate, we should be able to follow through. So I want to assure the nation that is not only Father Alois Cheruyat Bet, what will pursue justice to each and every Kenyan. And I want to challenge Independent Police Oversight Authority. They have the mandate, they have the law. They should just implement and ensure any person. Because unfortunately, the bullets that are being used to kill our people, we bought it with taxpayers' money.
Indeed.
So it is very sad and tragic. But we must, as a country, I want to assure the nation, as a Senate, with their statements, even today, the statement on the killing of Father Alois Cheruyat Bet is on the order paper of today, and a number of Kenyans, including young people who we have lost. So the owners, by the way, in this country, there are enough laws and resources to fight some of these human rights abuses.
Yes.
Yeah. So on the coming to the topic of the day, national pride, it takes the courage of a leader to request for forgiveness. I expected Kenyans to leave it at that. I don't know why people are saying it should have. I don't know how you request for an apology. Ama kusema pole. I don't know what should happen. Yes, ndio unasema tu pole. I don't know whether the president should have knelt or should have done what. Because the fact says that if we have wronged you in any way, and he apologized to the GNC, he apologized to the Tanzanians, you have not trolling on the social media, he apologized to Ugandans and anybody else who have wronged. And I think that's the power of reconciliation and prayer. So as a country, we should just leave it at there, because if he has apologized, I thought as a human being, the highest you can go is to apologize. But I want to agree there was a framework that was being signed between ODM and UDA on broad-based government. One of the 10 points was on the issue of addressing on extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearance and possible compensation of the victims. And I want to agree that now that the president has apologized, the next step we should be looking at is to ensure there is accountability of all enforced and extrajudicial killings and possible compensation to the victims. I think that is when now the apology will be home. So in my own observation, I think the first step was that courage of saying, I am sorry, and if we have wronged you in any way, it is, as a country, we should leave it at that. But I know there are many other things that can be done we don't want retributive justice. We want justice that will reconcile everybody. At the end of the day, the victim and the aggressor can come. But also, in that apology, also anybody who would have participated and they are known, I think now we need to fast track those cases like extrajudicial killings that are allegedly committed by the police and others. The fact that the apology was tendered, there are many other factors that will make the victim or anybody who has been transgressed feel better, like prosecution of transgressors or offenders, the possibility of compensation, the issue of prosecution, because the only way you will bring closure. And for example, in the case of Alois Cheragei, the mother spoke to the media that the moment only they will know who the killers are, and the moment the killers will be prosecuted, it will give closure to the family and the families that have been affected. To Tanzania, I think because we are good business partners, and I think I saw them trolling us on Kiswahili, and that English is not their priority. But it is a good neighboring country. I think as a country we enjoy too much freedom.
What does that mean?
There's no such thing.
Sorry,
as
what does
No. Let me qualify my statement.
I really need you to qualify that. Yeah.
Merely qualify, because when you go to other countries, even looking around or even posting some things on social media are not allowed. The internet is so much regulated. What you can post is so much regulated. And this comes, by the way, I don't know whether you notice with the changes of visa with the US, that all the embassies should be, and they are even thinking of reviewing, including looking at your social media past history.
Oh, they're not thinking about it. They very clearly said that is what they're going to do.
So it means some countries are taking extra caution, and therefore the fact that you know in my culture they say you can share the sun but not homes, and that is why Kenyans, whenever you cross to another country, the respectful way is to avoid meddling with the local affairs. That is the least we can do, because you don't expect somebody to fly all the way from US or from Zimbabwe to come and meddle with the affairs of this country. So I think as a country we have a unique way. We do our own things, but we should not export our mannerisms to other countries because they don't like it kindly. Because when you go to Tanzania, there is a way they run their country. When you walk into Uganda, so that we don't endanger the businessmen and women and our visit of tourism to those countries. Should not.
Senator, the jury is still out, because the things that we are saying is presupposition about what may have happened.
Correct.
We cannot say that Kenyans who went from Nairobi to Dar es Salaam went to behave in a certain manner. For golly's sake, they were not even allowed.
But they are already social media.
They were not allowed. No, come on. They were not allowed outside of the airport.
Yes.
And here we are saying that we're exporting bad manners, and the question still remains, what bad manners were being exported? What bad manners were being exported? What was actually done? We cannot, unfortunately, make judgment on presupposition. We cannot suppose or imagine something and then, as a result of that, make a swift judgment on the same. And I think this is what is bringing the tension. So you can imagine when those underlings are still there, an apology is then made on behalf of the Kenyan people by the president for something that a lot of people don't even think was a mistake that was made, on one hand, and then saying you're sorry, or if in the event that something was done that you're sorry, the questions are bound then in terms of who's being apologized for, and will people continue to bear the brunt of what is perceived as a mistake here in Kenya? So is the apology then real?
No, that's why I was trying to explain before coming to apologizing part, because you remember even the former Chief Justice David Maraga went ahead and issued a statement after attending the Tundu Lissu treason and say this is an abuse of human rights. We don't know what the law talks about on how treason is being treated in Tanzania as opposed to Kenya. So, and then number two...
Would you say that was bad manners by David Maraga to go into the... Remember, if you saw the clips...
Yes.
Chief Justice Emeritus David Maraga went into the court.
Yes.
He had about a 2-minute conversation with Tundu Lissu.
Yes.
They spoke, and Tundu Lissu was heard clearly saying, "Thank you very much, Kenya. Your blood runs in my veins, and so I will always be a brother of the nation." Do you think, based on what you're saying then,
Yes.
that David Maraga going in and having a conversation with him in court, remember he was not deported,
Yes.
were those bad manners?
No, but of
Was
course.
that an exportation
It is not bad
of
manners.
bad manners?
I know where Tundu Lissu comes. He comes from a place called Zingida. And I know quite history about him. But the point I'm trying to make is that it was okay to go and see him. But when he issued the statement in public, and I think you media covered, is where the line is being drawn. Because by the fact as a former Chief Justice is a foreigner, he has already taken a position that charging Tundu Lissu on treason charges is an abuse of the law or human rights. Why don't you leave to the court to determine? Because they say everybody is innocent until proven otherwise. So and then number two, you saw our colleagues, our brothers and sisters, they were already in the airport. They were recording. You could see, is it Boniface Mwangi in the room? You could see these activists from Uganda recording on airport and starting to question the human rights record of Tanzania and how the opposition leaders or how, because we are aware Tanzania will do elections towards the end of this year, and questioning the electoral process. How can you go and question somebody's in-house matters if it was there is nowhere in our East Africa treaty, even in 1999, it talks about export of services, goods, and labor. It does not say we export politics.
Senator, if I may.
Yes.
Let me first start by addressing an issue about why people are struggling with the apology from the president.
Okay.
It's just two letters.
Yes.
It's the letters if.
If.
You see, if I slap you, then I tell you if I have wronged you. So that's how Kenyans feel.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's how Kenyans feel. And it is important for people who will communicate the president's message further to elucidate and take ownership of the things that he's saying he's wronged Kenyans about.
Yes.
Because that will make the communication better. But now, to my issue on Tanzania.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And Honorable Sankok was here. I said the same thing, and I'll repeat it here. There's a difference between the political reality of Tanzania and the human rights and the ability of people to visit a country, to go attend a court case, and then have an opinion about it.
Okay.
Because there is no human being on earth today who is not allowed to have an opinion. Much more a person who's not in your country. I have lots of opinions on Trump, by the way.
Yes.
He looks like a turnip. He's orange. I have so many opinions. But when I go to the States...
be careful when you apply the visa to the US.
I still have 2 years on mine. So
Okay.
I'm fine.
But they are revoking.
No, but I'm not even interested in going there. That's the funny part.
Okay.
But the thing is,
Yes.
Senator,
Yes.
when we speak about this Tanzanian thing, I hear you when you say, because you're correct. It's absolutely correct. And I've said it before. That Tanzania is not a land you go and do certain things. Their culture, the way the government is set up, does not allow that.
Correct.
But that does not justify in any shape, way, or form how Kenyans were treated. And you see, when we mix these two issues, because it is true, when my friends in CCM, when they hear me speak a certain way, just like a Kenyan would, about anything, even about how they've taken very long to build certain road, they will tell me, "Yo tabia ya Kenya utaacha." You understand? That is within their nature, and that I understand because it's a cultural thing. But we on our side as a nation, right, cannot then just turn our backs on our citizens because Tanzanians feel offended. Because whatever if they did in Kenya, if they were doing it in Kenya, we would be saying civil society is doing its job, because that's how we operate here. So it is expected, in as much as they've wronged the emotions, because it's not the law, the emotions and feelings of the Tanzanians because of their culture and whatever, it behooves us as a nation to embrace and protect our people. Because now I'm even afraid, because I'm a media person. I need to go there in 2 weeks. So I'm afraid to go, because now will I also be brought back, even though I don't plan to go visit Tundu Lissu? And then who will defend me when I'm brought back?
I just want to connect something here, and oftentimes we then are able to make a point by way of comparison.
Yes.
And it is important, Senator,
Yes.
As one who is a member of Parliament, also as one who then is, in the same party as the president. By comparison, let's look at something that was said by President Museveni and his wife Janet.
Oh yeah, I saw
Right?
it. Was interesting to see them
I'm going to
reading.
quote,
I joined.
and it
I-
was
I
a
joined
joint
the
apology.
Yes.
Is it because elections is near?
Either
That's
way,
another- the
either
jury's
way,
out.
that's a total again something that the jury is out on.
Yes.
But this is what they said:
Uh-huh.
as top leaders of the movement, we humbly take responsibility for the mistakes made by ourselves, our agents, and our representatives. Therefore, I stand here to repent and ask for forgiveness, especially the people of Buganda and the whole country. Nobody read this on his behalf. Nobody read it for him.
They read together.
They read it
with the wife.
together.
Yes.
And these are the words he said. He said, I stand here to repent and ask for your forgiveness.
Yes.
It was not, in case you feel that you are offended, then I apologize. Do you see the difference? This is what Kenyans are saying. He also went on to say, God restore the favor that we had with them, the people of Uganda, in the beginning. Bring healing to their hearts, soften their hardened hearts, and reconnect us to the regional vision of our national unity and unwavering commitment to social and economic transformation for our nation together.
That's a 40-year apology.
Hey, imagine. But he took
But they have
responsibility.
committed more sins, and you know,
we
elections
can't
is
compare
approaching
apples. I'm talking
in
about
Uganda.
I'm talking
Now,
about
can I come to the
character.
substance?
I'm talking. This is the thing,
Yes.
and I'd like us to focus on
Correct,
that.
correct.
I'm talking about the character of the apology. That responsibility was taken, accountability was held, and there was no flowering around it. It was very clear.
Okay.
We have done this. We apologize. We ask for forgiveness. Not if you are offended. Not if maybe perhaps. And this is what Kenyans are taking issue with. Do you think that maybe that could have?
Did we
do
hear
you,
atrocities in that
do you
statement?
think that could have been handled a little bit better?
No. You know, the issue of apology is by the president, and you remember even the youth who attended the conference later addressed the media, and they said they agree and they have accepted that apology, and therefore I don't think there is nothing wrong with the way the president apologized.
Okay.
I have seen the apology by Museveni and the wife. Who happens, I think, Minister of Education.
Yes, she is.
I think the same apology should be read together between Macron and the wife, so that they should learn from Museveni and the wife.
not slap each other.
But I agree that, you know, I don't understand the context, because I don't understand the dynamic so much of Uganda on why. But looking at the history, I think President Museveni and Mama Janet did very well to apologize. I don't know, because elections are near, or is it because they felt genuinely that they need to apologize? But from somebody who knows the president, I think the president, in my own opinion, when he spoke, even from the demeanor, he really meant when he says he's apologizing to the GNC, the Tanzanians, and Uganda, and anybody who would have wrong. Because sometimes, you know, there are supporters who agree with what happened or how the government reacted to the protest against the government of the day. There are people who feel this was right or wrong, and that is why he was using the word "if I have wronged you," because you never know how people take it. Sometimes
How do you think people? Let me ask this question. How do you think people take a life lost, somebody shot in the head outside
No,
Parliament?
of course, it's very tragic and sad.
Yeah.
But I have said, even in the beginning, when you asked me the first question, that apology will of course, apart from apologizing, it will soothe the emotions of the country. But I think what we need to do further, and I know the president is aware of this, is now to ensure anybody who committed those offenses, including killing the protesters, they must be held accountable. And you have had IPOA, there are people they're already prosecuting in court. And then number two, you know, the opposite of not apologizing is retributive justice, an eye for an eye, and will make the whole country blind, or the whole world, as Mahatma Gandhi would say. Now the question is, after the apology, we now need to ensure that anybody who has affronted the law should be prosecuted. And even as we jail them, if they have affronted the law, then compensation should happen, and the apology will be complete, in my own opinion. Because if that apology will be complete, is to ensure that the victim, sees and feels that justice has been done through the apology. So what Kenyans do, what Kenyans should be doing now is after the apology, what next to right the wrongs. That is the conversation we should be having.
Senator.
Yes.
Let Dennis ask his question.
Senator.
Yes.
The question was not answered.
You see,
Which one? I will answer. I'm here. I
let's
always
take a
like
break.
answer questions.
No, just ask a question.
You see, Senator,
Yes.
when we talk about the apologies and what not that is happening,
Yes.
there is the law of the Republic. When we talk about those who are killed in Arap, the Gen Zs who are killed, there is the law and there's the process of
Correct.
investigating all this and ensuring
Absolutely.
that everyone is brought before the law. So it did not take, first of all, the Speaker of the day to ask the President to apologize for that apology to come. All that Kenyans have been asking for is that investigations are done. Those that have done wrong are brought before the book. Reason why today the apology has been given, but Kenyans do not believe that this apology comes from a clean place because they feel it is forced, because Kenyans have been calling for the President and the leadership to do right by them.
Correct. But I want to agree with you. There is judicial process, and that is why I hope in future this show you should invite DPP and even IPOA to ask them how much cases are being investigated and prosecuted. No, because he's asking about the due process of
I
the
hear
law.
you.
And that is why even we have put a statement. I know you want to go on a break, but we have put a statement when the Ministry of Interior will appear and IPOA, we will post the question that when people are killed in Angata Baragoi, when a priest is killed in Kerio, when somebody is killed in Lamu or in Marsabit, where is the investigation process?
Absolutely.
Yes,
and
that is.
IPOA will sit here as they did.
Yes.
Isaac sat here
It
and
doesn't
told
mean
us,
let me correct
told us
something.
very clearly that
Yes.
IPOA sits as an authority whereby the most of the resources that they get will not go towards some of these things that you're saying.
But that's
so for me,
Yes.
when we talk about
Yes.
then things need to happen under the policing authority, is that the executive needs to then make sure it funds that authority.
But it is the parliament who appropriates the money.
And this
that
is why you are here to
I-
tell us about
that
the
is why
solutions
the
then that are necessary.
budget making process is ongoing. I can confirm to the nation, and I hope because the committee, I don't want to go ahead of them, and I hope you'll invite the chair of budget. The committee is now allocating resources, and by the way, to correct the perception that it doesn't mean that the apology of the president meant that the assailants will go now scot-free. Now that the president, no. It is just for the unity and reconciliation of the nation. But I agree with you, my brother, that he has said the due process of the law should be followed.
Let's take
and
a
that
break.
is what I agree.
It's interesting because Dagoretti, North Member of Parliament,
Yes.
essentially gave a litany of
Prayer
wrongs.
requests.
I believe that what she was doing was essentially opening up and saying, this is where we have gone wrong, and God, we are telling you where we've gone wrong. Please forgive us and help us to move ahead. Now, in the moving ahead, if we see that she actually was very prescriptive in her prayer, and that, I guess, is the question that we ask now, from prayer to policy, because we can pray here. Come on.
Yeah,
We know
I
what
agree.
it is like.
I
We
agree.
can
I
pray
agree.
here and waste money, right? In the morning, every day in May for the next 20 years. But if we do not act thereafter, it becomes an exercise in futility. So what happens towards policy? The president, the CEO of the country, comes out and says, okay, fine. If we offended you in any way, we apologize. How then do you remove the stain of offense? That if a mother lost her son, if a father cannot find his son, if we see pictures of somebody who was shot outside Parliament, if we see floating bodies on a river, if we see that people were walking outside one day and the next day they are gone, and then they are found after 30 days and nobody's giving explanation as to where they went. If children can't go to school, if a health system does not work, if road infrastructure is dilapidated, these are all things that I believe the apology encompassed. And I'm going from the litany of Beatrice Elachi's prayers. And if an apology was given as the last statement that was made by the president on that day, what can we expect to see? Because my mother used to say that a real apology is ending this repetitive behavior. When you tell me you're sorry, but then you come and do the same thing again, it's like you've slapped me in the face twice.
Yes.
So,
No, I agree with now that we need to move from prayer to policy. By the way, this is the 22nd National Prayer Breakfast. and it is funded by people of goodwill, if you heard yesterday when the speaker mentioned. Number two, I agree. That is why I think we went ahead with the conversation on what should happen next after saying, apart from apology or prayers, we should now move to policy. For example, I agree that we should make sure devolution works, ensure that the timely disbursement of resources to our counties. We should also ensure that anybody who has violated the law, including extrajudicial killings, they should be held accountable through judicial process, as you have said. Number two, we should also ensure that we fight the menace of corruption, challenges of development in the country, equity. And you heard yesterday, even today as we talk, there is, I can't remember, there are bridge in Tana River County, where children, because when during rainy season they are being eaten by crocodiles. I am happy in this budget, at least the Ministry of Treasury has proposed, I think it was its supplementary 50 million each to fix the bridge. In Dadaab, they are receiving the first tarmac in the history since independence. So I agree that as a country, we need now to move the deliberate effort to ensure that there is principle of equity and equality across the country. In fact, I agree that most of these young people who are on social media, it is not the intention for them to be there. It is because of the challenges of lack or inadequate opportunities. And that is why President William Ruto has moved, and I want to say prayers to policy, is the fact now that we are establishing digital hubs across the entire wards and across the constituencies in this republic. That is why the issue of affordable housing program, where young people can now get the daily to work. You saw the Mukuru housing, and I'm happy media has been very supportive in covering and ensuring that there is proper transition. Even in my own county, there is a place called Kapsabet town. We are having, where my headquarters in Nandi, we are having almost 80% completion of 220. When I walked into the construction site, I was told by the Nyabara, the head person, that they employ between 300 young people per day. When we have markets like these markets that are being done, for example, there are 6 that are being done, and when I went to a place called Kaiboy, I got almost 100 to 150 young people in Chepsonoi, in Maraba. And therefore, I agree that even as we pray and condemn young people for using social media in not an intended purpose, is because they say an idle mind is a devil's workshop. It is for us and that is why yesterday, if you are following proceedings, I have even moved a motion. I gave a notice of motion yesterday at the floor of the House to review the Public Service Commission in turns, so that we don't take 1 year or 6 months, train them in PSC, then throw them outside. We should prepare a transition, maybe from contract to permanent and pensionable. Number one, the stipends that are being paid. Are you aware that in turns in Nairobi, Eldoret, Kisumu, and Mombasa are paid between 15,000 and 30,000 stipend, which is still very low. That's why I brought that motion. Number 3 is to reward an innovation, and also to ensure that there is a career progression of interns, the PSC. That is the only way we will be able to transit from prayer to policy, by giving adequate opportunities to the young people in this republic. And that is why we will not need to pray about young people using social media badly. We will not need to pray about corruption if today the EACC ensures that all governors, whether they are politically correct or wrong, are charged equally before the law. And that is my only prayer, because even now as we talk, when you call EACC, by the way, Senate, we are being blamed. In fact, when you go to the village, people are asking you, why is governor stealing and you are doing nothing about it? It is because the EACC should do their job, because we cannot pray for corruption to end. We must fight corruption. We pray and take people to court. And that is now the DPP and DCI. You saw even leaders have bad manners. You see the allegations of Juja MP, the DCI and IG, although the jury is still out there, are alleging that a leader is abducting themselves. We need to, as a country, it looks like our own ethics as leaders had gone to the dogs. Because by the fact somebody thinks, and I'm here to listen the side of story of our friend Juja MP Koimburi on really what happened. The police have given their version. In fact, what shocked me is, as members of parliament, we want to go and see him and report back to the House. You know, even the National Assembly chairperson on security, it was even on the answer, that even the parliament directed one of the committees, go and visit our friend, give us a brief on really what happened. They could not access him. So as a country, I agree that apart from prayer, we must get work to work. And that is why Kenyans want electricity. They want roads to be fixed. I can see here outside your offices that road. I don't know. They have been trying to expand
November 11th.
for the last how many?
November 11th.
Yeah,
is when it was
November
supposed to
11th. 3 years down the line. I agree with you that from prayer we must be deliberate on terms of policy. But the policy that have deliverables to the people of I almost say people of Nandi, the people of this republic, so that we can see value. You saw even, for example, Garissa, for example, county, spend 40 million to do a cultural day. But they have never fixed a 56-kilometer pipeline of water into Garissa town, for example. So these are challenges as agreed that we must try and fix as a nation, apart from the apology, so that apology and policy and prayers comes together.
You see, Senator, we talk about apology and you talk about policy. This country is not short of policies, not short of laws. You know, when you talk about corruption, when you talk about freedom of speech, it is the very same person, the president, who issued an apology, who stood once and said these young people are misbehaving because of how they're expressing themselves on social media. Yet the Constitution gives the young people an opportunity to express themselves. It's a freedom. When you talk about apology that has been issued to the Republic of Tanzania, we're not hearing the Republic saying we equally apologize to our very people who went to Tanzania and were mistreated. They were tortured by the Tanzanian authorities, which begs the question, this apology that has been issued, does it go in place to really soothe Kenyans, or is it because it was asked?
No, for example, I forgot something about, I wanted to mention something that my brother has mentioned, is on the issue of deportation. You know, every country has a right to deport. I think where the problem is when they arrested the activist. Under international principles, you just need to deport the way they did it to Martha Karua. So with Boniface Mwangi and the Ugandan activists, they should have taken them to Dar es Salaam airport and put them on the next available flight. So I think where we have a problem, and I've seen the PCS, Musalia Mudavadi has written a letter to the Ministry of, to the Tanzanian authorities to find out what really happened. Because naturally, even if today you are deported from US, even the ICE, what they are doing, they are just putting you on a next available flight and take you back to your country. On the issue of use of social media, we have to agree. You know, most of these people speaking are also parents and they know their children. I want to say, even in freedom of speech, which you have mentioned and is very good under Bill of Rights in our Constitution, there is limitation to that freedom of speech or even writing. It doesn't involve incitement and even using insults and demeaning people or body shaming people. So even as young people have a freedom to express themselves in social media, it does not give them free license to insult. Because as a leader, by the way, sometimes when you see what people write, even in social media, even in Twitter or X as they call, they body shame you, they insult you. I remember when I was moving my bill on term limit, somebody insults you. I cannot even mention those unpalatable words. It doesn't mean, yes, you have a right to express your, but doesn't mean to incite, to also, and I saw the NCIC where he was writing the former deputy president to appear before them. It doesn't involve, you have a right, yes, to speak, but you don't have a right to incite people. You have a right to write in social media, but it does not give you a free license to demean or insult. Because if I open my phone today and show you what people are inboxing me or writing about me in Twitter, even kama ningekuwa na roho ya kuku, the way President Moi used to say, the late, may his soul rest in peace, he used to say kama ningekuwa na roho ya kuku, ningekuwa nimeenda. So that one I agree with you. No one is curtailing the freedom of young people to express themselves, but they must also do it responsibly and with it. And I'm happy Donald Trump has said, and I know my brother doesn't like Donald, he has said we will also be looking at your social media history, even in the visa application. So I want to warn the young people, as you write in social media, write things that are factual, that are respectful, that does not border insults or incitement in the public. So
let me remind you that a few years ago, if I may,
yes,
there was a journalist, and there was a movement called Charlie. Remember the Charlie movement?
Yes.
Now you see, there's dangerous ground on which we tread.
Yes.
Those of us in media will tell you every day there is someone who insults you as well.
Correct.
Right?
Agreed.
And those insults, honestly, I cannot remember one. You understand?
Yes.
And that days have trended twice. 2
course,
days
I normally see, yes.
being insulted.
Yes.
The point I'm making here
Yes.
is that
Do you feel it is right for people
just
to...
let me finish. Let me finish.
Oh, you are the one asking questions.
Yes, I'm about to ask my question.
Yes.
There's a criminal defamation. Criminal defamation was abolished. You know that?
Yes.
So any form of insult in this country is not a criminal offense.
Yeah, I agree. It's a simple matter where you...
So if someone says, Mark Bichachi, you're growing bald and you're becoming ugly, I cannot take him to criminal court. I'll take him to civil court. And at that point, I'll have to prove whether I'm balding or not. Right?
Yes.
So those are not insults.
Yes.
What are called insults are religious insults, wounding people's religious feelings, right? Threatening or abusive language. You understand? Threatening, abusive or insulting words that provoke a breach of peace. You understand?
Yes.
So if someone calls me a monkey face, he has not brought a breach of peace. You understand? If someone calls me, if I was a senator, and says I am the dumbest senator to ever live, they have not breached the peace, because my peace is not the public peace that this is talking about. And then intimidation and molestation, right? And this is used to intimidate or molest a person. So the definition of what we are calling abuse is clearly stipulated in law. And a caricature of someone does not constitute an abuse of communication or of social media. What I think is happening, Senator, and this is my question, do you consider for one moment that the real issue is that there is a communication block and misunderstanding between you and Gen Zs? Because as I hear you, the issue is misuse of social media. As I hear Elachi, the issue and the prayer point is misuse of social media. But by our own laws, everything that these kids are doing is not illegal.
Yeah, that is why I say freedom of expression and opinion is a right under the Constitution.
Yes.
Number two is, I agree with you largely that they have a right to express themselves.
Yes.
But as a society, we have also our ethos and culture and our behavior. It doesn't mean if today they say you look like a monkey face and people attack you at the gate today, you endanger yourself.
No, that's a breach of peace. But
yes,
see,
I'm saying by the way, there is a thin line between incitement and also an abuse and insult, because the moment you abuse and insult, the perception of that individual changes. But what I wanted to say about the issue of young people, I agree. By the way, government is doing a lot.
Yeah.
We have a very poor communication as a government.
Indeed.
It is very pathetic. The communication of government is very pathetic because the people who should be communicating are not communicating. Because, by the way, now politicians, we are now the ones communicating instead of the communication department of the government. Yes. Because even, you remember during many eras, even Kibaki, for example, Kibaki say, kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. Yeah. You didn't need to explain anything about that statement. It is simple, but it is catchy. Yeah. And I remember there was, when we were growing up, wanasema, familia bora, maisha bora. And then they put a picture of good family of 2 children, panga bozazi, family bora. Then they put emaciated with 10 children. Yes. Then that was enough. So we should learn with the simplicity of passing communication. Yes. And I think that is where government, by the way, the president is doing a lot on affordable housing. You agree with me? You saw what is happening in Mukuru.
The president
he is doing a lot about, there are many good stories about SHA, despite the challenges. There are many, even in my own county, there are many projects of roads that have started. Yes. But where is this? Because that is why if Gen Z had that communication that government is working, I believe they could not be insulted in social media.
I have a question. Senator, as we talk about matters to do with the apology, Kenyans are asking a simple question here. Yes. Do Kenyans want an apology or justice, or do they want both?
They want
Which
both.
one is critical to Kenyans?
I think justice comes with apology. They are twin. They are CMS twins. Twins that look alike, they are called Siamese. Siamese twins. Yes. You know, it depends on...
It depends on
I
where
went
you
to
were.
the school. I went to the school that has produced 2 presidents. So, Kapsabet boys, retired Moi and William Ruto. So, I want to say, there are two. Justice and apology must go together. If you remove apology, it becomes retributive justice. We must have justice that give value to the victims, and also the aggressor is punished. And that is why sometimes there is what we call blood money in some cultures in this country. I don't want to mention. When you kill somebody, they come and pay through what we call blood money. But that is not the point I'm trying to make. If there are higher crimes like murder, like corruption, the law must take full course against such. But we must ensure, and that is why I want to repeat again, that justice will only qualify apology if we follow through until the victim feels that they are appreciated. And that is why I've insisted that apart from apology, we must now prosecute the aggressors. We must now ensure there is compensation to the victim so that we can ensure. And these are things that government can do. But we must also have a proper communication channel. When the president said he has apologized, and the president means well for this country, the people who do communication must come out and communicate so that it becomes easy. I think the reason, even by the way, I've engaged Gen Z even in my country. Whenever they ask you what is happening with government, when you explain, they say, oh, atukwa tunajua. It is because, as my brother said, there is a blockade of information, and that is why misinformation and fake news is now thriving, because people with the social media, I can post that I've been slapped in SpiceFM, and by the time you rectify as a Standard Group, almost half of the country would have believed and some of them would say it's right, because maybe they don't like my face. So I agree that there is a lot that the president is doing, but putting it simplification, so that Mamboga or Boda guy, or by the way, I realized when president went and gave out keys of Mukuru kwa Njenga, 1,000 plus houses the other day, which was a good thing. And I saw a story yesterday in one of your colleagues' media houses where a media person followed a mama hammering from Mukuru to the new housing, and you could see the joy. But you remember, because of the fake news, somebody can pull a clip of 20 to 2 years, 3 years, and people tend to believe.
But Senator, this is the one thing that I am begging you to hear me on.
Yes.
First, let us agree. Much of what I've seen on social media among the Gen Z is not illegal, unless you feel like you have been mischaracterized.
No,
Then you get.
Yeah.
So the focus on Gen Z and the use of social media and the reputation of it is not founded on any law. It is not founded on any actual legal promise. Number two, it is well known that you cannot legalize or criminalize morality, like what Kenya culture. So even the very thought that somehow we can culturally control the young people in how they feel like they want to express Mark Bichachi etc. Now, the question I'd like you to answer for me is, as we issue that apology and we're talking about policy, have we changed our minds about how we approach Gen Z? Have we stopped looking at them as this entity that is anti-government and think of them as our children, our nieces, who are actually making cogent points that the best way to handle this is to actually listen to them than attempt to criminalize them?
I agree with you. You remember when this issue of Gen Z happened last year, the president even appeared at X to try and listen to them. But this is an amorphous group. You remember even when people came up as their leaders, you remember they said those are sellouts. So as a leader, when I want to engage with a certain village in my county, there must be at least a headman or people who lead and say, Mheshimiwa, these are our issues. So I want to request Gen Zs first. By the way, I've listened to what they are saying. I saw even the comments, and they are expressing serious issue. They are saying, please fight corruption. They are saying, please fight bad governance. They are saying, please fight nepotism and tribalism in our public service and employment. They are saying, give us equal opportunities. They are not saying give us, but they're saying allow us to have equity and equality access to public opportunities. They are saying very good things, by the way. Not all Gen Zs have been demeaning or insulting, but the question is, how do you engage them? You remember now, of course, I agree that we should fight corruption, we should fight bad governance, we should ensure there is equity, development, access to opportunities. But now when they say engage us, when their leaders like, was it Anifa, Muzju, Morara, Kebaso, and the rest, when they try to come up, and even Kasmol, Kasmel or Kasmol said they are now leaders of Gen Z. You realize they even receive backlash. So my question, I agree, they are making cogent points. But how will you take them through? But I agree that the entire country, we must fix so that the entire country can see.
They make decisions democratically on social media.
Yes.
So I think the idea of looking for a leader will totally waste time.
Yes.
There needs to be a concerted effort as government to get online and consistently engage them at the platform of their democracy.
Yes.
Because they have some very weird democracy going on. How they even decide how to go to clubs will shock you.
I agree.
Look, I mean, just looking into how policy then will follow this prayer function, I think is where Kenyans are looking to, and that will then be able to solidify whether it was authentic, what happened yesterday, Senator. And I think moving forward is very interesting. It would be very interesting to see how all of this plays out.
Yes.
As usual, I want to thank you for being in the hot seat this morning.
There's no closing remarks?
Our time runs out, but I was going to give you 10 seconds to actually do that.
No, it's an honor to be here, and I want to request media, we become partners. Don't become too harsh. I saw you have carried a story on Tifa, pollsters. But you know, Tifa pollsters, they are neither here nor there, because if you ask them the sample, they might have picking only 2,000 people against 50 million pass. But we need that partnership. Even media, I want to request media. I'm not saying you become sorry for using these lapdogs of the government of the day, but I want to request, whenever there are serious issues, criticize when it needs to be criticized. When they are good, I hope in future the Standard will put an deadline. Mukuru Kwanjenga housing is changing lives as the way they have done it today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator, for being here. The Senator for Nandi County, Kiprotich Cheragei, has been here with us this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.